So I'm Kerrie Durham. I am 29 years old and I am calling in from Naples, Florida, but I've lived in Hong Kong for the last 6 years.
And what do you do for work, Kerrie?
So I was a software engineer in investment banks and then I quit about a year ago. And right now I do contract work under my own name of a company and I do invoices and a lot of coding, production, and I do voice acting.
And how much you make a year working for yourself right now?
So when I quit my job about a year ago, I had saved up a whole bunch of money from working corporate and I backpacked around the world. I started the company about 6 months ago and I've been working really hard to sort of build a foundation and a base. And I would say I'm averaging about 2000 US a month now, but it's not a average over a year. It's more like an average over the last 3 months.
So building that up.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much were you making in your previous role working in corporate America?
So I was in corporate Hong Kong. I was making 110,000 US dollars a year, and the taxes were 14% flat, I believe.
Okay, so roughly 110 US dollars. Taxes a little bit lower over there when you're
Yeah.
working. And how much had you saved up prior to quitting that job and deciding to go travel the world?
I think I'm thinking it was around 60,000 US.
What inspired you to take the leap and quit the job and start traveling?
So my goal when I was young was to reach 100,000 US dollars by the time I was 30. And I had taught myself software engineering and I was going to go abroad and I was going to work in a bank and make that money and live a really fun life. And I did live a really fun life, but I found it to be a little bit hollow or missing something. And then I went through a pretty bad breakup where I thought I was going to get married and have kids, decided that living the lifestyle I was living was not cutting it and that you only live for so long and I'm going to live for myself instead of for a partnership. And then I wrote down all my bucket list dreams when I got dumped and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do them before I die. And I figured I could always go back to corporate. So even now, if I wanted to, as a female software engineer, I have options to go back to corporate. And I figured if I had stopped at 110,000 US, it'd be easy enough to get back into corporate at 80,000 US. If there was a big enough gap and I had to take a pay cut, I could probably get back in for that amount abroad or in America. So I figured I would take the risk, try my own company, try contracting, have control of my time and money. And if I fail, the failure is going back to corporate, which was exactly where I started. So there was no down in my mind because I didn't need more than 80,000 US dollars to be happy. I didn't need $110,000 to be happy. What was I spending money on? Like nice champagne? I mean, honestly, you put a little bit of juice and Prosecco and it's the same thing for me. Like I'm not a classy or picky person. So it was all about image. So everyone was buying the latest Gucci purses or they were all sort of going to the latest brunches and showing off by spending all this money. And it just didn't do anything for me. So earning above a certain amount was just sort of travel money. And then what's the point if you're not traveling?
Yeah. And I mean, you made a good point. You do have a career field that's going to be in high demand for long as I can see being a software engineer. And that's something that you can always go back to, but also have to make sure you take care of yourself financially too. So we'll kind of dive into the weeds and see how the last year's been going. Traveling sounds like a fun time going to different places. Where all did you travel to?
Oh God. I did Everest Base Camp. I did a surf week or 2 or 3. I can't remember. I drank so much rum in the Philippines. And this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere, doing like dance competitions. It was hilarious. Thailand, I did a sailboat delivery. So I sailed a boat overnight, for a few days from Malaysia to Thailand. I hung around in Bali in Indonesia. I did wreck diving and injured my foot and was in 3 different hospitals because the infection spread to my foot.
Wow.
That was awful. But it was interesting because I was on crutches and I had a boot and I would be trying to walk to places because I'd be so bored just sitting around doing nothing. And the people were just so nice. Like Balinese people would pick me up on their scooter and drive me wherever I needed to go. Or in the Philippines, people would just walk with me everywhere. I mean, everything was a cool experience. It was
so you
awesome.
got to travel, see a lot of new cultures, a lot of different areas, countries, and experience a lot of things that most people will never get to experience in their life.
It was definitely an adventure. It was definitely living out of my backpack and looking pretty broke adventure.
Sounds like a fun time.
It was great. And I plan to do more. I'm just pausing right now because my brother had a baby with his wife and I wanted to be there. And my dad's health is a little bit iffy. And, there's just like family is really what matters. So I'm trying to financially support myself to continue being a little bit more adventurous while also be able to maintain my lifestyle with my family.
So you moved back, you stopped all the adventures traveling a few months ago and moved back to Naples to start your own job or
Kind
own
of.
company.
So I'm going to split my time, half the time in Hong Kong, half the time in the US is my current plan. And I'm still going on adventures. Just I was in Colombia last month, but it's just they're a little bit smaller, and I'm trying my current goal is to build a few things that will generate an income that doesn't need constant management. Because one of the biggest issues when I was in Nepal and the Himalayas is that there's no Wi-Fi or no consistent Wi-Fi. There's no consistent, so I'd want to be able to have, let's say, like staking in crypto, or I don't know, something that doesn't require a constant stream of work from me, but that can subsidize my travels or my lifestyle and things. So at this moment in my life, I'm deciding to dedicate the next 6 months to try to build as much as I can, however long it takes, and to earn income anyway. Like I'm doing weird voiceovers or just random stuff because it's fun and it's making some money that I can save away.
Okay. Good plan and good goals to, I mean, being an engineer, you can build software that can scale with less human power.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
I mean, everything in this world, though, any company is going to need some sort of management or some sort of customer support or some sort of anything in between, unless you build a proper infrastructure and hire in someone to run that company. But there's definitely ways to scale stuff, especially with software and with your background. How would you define your current finance situation on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being horrific, 10 being picture perfect.
So for me personally, my parents cut me off when I was 19, and I didn't have much money, and it was a wake-up call, and it was a very good experience, but it left me being allergic to not having money in my bank account. So once my checks stopped coming in from investment banking, the panic attacks started coming. I'm fine now, but I would say I'm probably worse. I think for someone who has been willing to take a risk and is willing to drop all the way to bottom, knowing that I have family, I'm lucky enough in my life to have family and friend support, I feel okay. I feel like I've extended myself further than I'm comfortable with, knowing that I've extended myself, knowing I'm taking a risk, and knowing that worst comes to worst, I can still cover my debts. I'm still positive if I need to be. I'm also able to go back to, like, there's enough runway for me to go back to corporate quickly if I needed to. And by quickly, I mean 2 months, 2 to 3 months, because that's quick in corporate world in my mind.
That would take a few months for the interview process if you needed to, but you also sounds like have a supportive family around you too. Do you live with family right now in Florida?
Yeah. So right now I'm living with my family, and then I have a partner in Hong Kong. So when I go to Hong Kong, that's also taken care of.
Okay. So you don't have any rent or living expenses right now?
Until I choose to. But it's also a pride thing because I'm almost 30, living on, my childhood room.
Living in a childhood room, but not paying rent, and you can travel the world, go to Hong Kong, go back and forth, and do that. So makes sense. Sounds like a lifestyle that you enjoy living. Now it's figuring out, hey, how does this work financially? Because
exactly.
I'm interested to kind of dive in because you said you had about $60K saved up. Where are you at now in terms of savings?
So savings, I remember looking at it when I filled in the form you gave me, and I was surprised because mentally I thought my savings was 0 or negative. I thought when I died I could bequeath my liability to somebody. But it turns out that I'm actually net positive, although some of that stuff is in a 401k. Thank you. And so I'm just pulling up the spreadsheet now. So I was a bit surprised. My Interactive Brokers account, I try not to look at that one because that's sort of my emergency money. If I was held for ransom in Nicaragua or something. The cryptocurrency I was also surprised at. I'm just pulling up the expenses now. The cryptocurrency I was also surprised at because I put that in ages ago and I didn't know there was still money in that.
Is that the 4,500? Is that all crypto?
Crypto and Interactive Brokers. So that's my brokerage account. And one of the things is because I used to work in a bank and I used to day trade back years ago. I wouldn't mind getting back into that. It's just my time is so limited. And then the Hong Kong retirement savings, so 23,000. So that one fluctuates with the market, and it fluctuates with the Asian market. Not by much, but I would say by 5,000. Every time I look, it'll be a few thousand on either side. This is the current. What I sent you is the current. When I look the day I sent you, and that one I can pull out anytime. The only thing is it'll take a month to pull out, and I've been keeping it in Hong Kong on purpose because I freak out when I get motivated to work harder when there isn't much money in my accounts. And so I sort of artificially want to be as broke as possible, knowing that in a month I can have this income come in, if that makes sense. So it motivates me. Otherwise, I would just still be on a beach in Thailand drinking a margarita.
Yeah. So if you had 50K sitting in your bank account right now, wouldn't motivate you as much to, hey, let's go travel. So,
Or, yeah, let's go work. Really.
You got 4,500 in crypto and your brokerage account. How much is in crypto? How much is in your brokerage account?
So interactive brokerage account is 20,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is roughly a little bit less than 3,000 US. So that means 1,500 in crypto, roughly.
Okay. So 1,500 crypto and 2,500 in a brokerage account. And then then you got 20,000 about, or 19,000 in your USA 401k, and then you got about 24,000 in your Hong Kong retirement accounts.
And my assumption with the 401k is I'm just not touching it ever until I retire because of the penalties, is my assumption.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you shouldn't touch it till you're 60 or 59 and a half. I guess you can start withdrawing penalty free, but shouldn't touch it before then because you're going to be paying a lot in penalties, fees, etc. Some people say, hey, I want to take a loan out for my 401k. Don't do that either. Just put you in a bad spot. And it's supposed to be for retirement. Social Security is not going to be here when me or you turn 65, 67. So let's not touch that money and hold off for the future and let it compound over time. So
I don't count that before. It's only because you asked for it. Otherwise, I don't even.
It still counts towards your net worth calculation, but it's, hey, you're not touching this money for at least 30 years at this point. So
right.
Savings account. How much do you have in your savings account right now? $1,400. Is it still that level?
Yeah. So that one stays pretty constant. I do code mentoring as well for a great company called Springboard, which is just a few calls a week with people who I mentor. And so that one is pretty consistent because I don't tend to spend more than the money I earn from that.
So I guess one statement you sent me that ended on the 25th, you had $400 in your checking account. Is there another account that has another $1,000, or is there only 400 in your checking account right now?
I have a Hong Kong account as well. That's why it's a little bit, so I have it all written and broken down because some of it's Hong Kong dollars, some of it's, I have basically two different statements, but I don't use the Hong Kong dollar one except for, like, sometimes I go into mainland China, and so I'll switch it over. So it's good to have a Hong Kong account.
Okay. And total debts. Let's get into the debts then.
Yes.
What different debts do you have right now?
So the student loans one, I hate that one so much because it was 14,000 when I pulled it out when I was a student and I was cut off, and I used it to pay for my stupid degree, which is linguistics. Total waste of money. If I could go back in time and slap myself, I would. I wish I was a mechanical engineer instead. But the student loans, I keep hoping that they will get erased. I don't think they will be, but a girl can.
Do you want to depend on the government for your financial stability in future?
So this is what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I don't like it at all. I think it's a terrible policy, but will it personally benefit me? Yes. So if it happens, I will ride those coattails out to financial freedom. I already think this government, I actually don't want to speak anything about government because I still have some residents in Hong Kong and that's a dangerous topic. But all I am saying is I don't agree with the big picture of it, but I can hope for...
I'm not trying to get political at all. I'm just saying depend on the U.S. government for your financial stability, whether it's Social Security 40 years from now or it's forgiveness of student loans. The government takes so long to solve any problems. It's not going to... And
it's been frozen. Payments have been frozen this entire time, and I've been loving it. And I just secretly hope that it will disappear. But
are you aware that payments resume in October?
I am ready for them to resume in October. Like, I am prepared for it to happen.
What's your minimum payment going to be on those?
So that's one of the things that when I first took them out and I signed up for stuff and I took the minimum payment at the time because I had absolutely no money and I didn't pay attention to it. I moved to Hong Kong and I just kept money coming into my US account to pay it off, not paying attention, thinking that, the next bonus, I'll just go ahead and pay it off. And I never did that. And so I think the minimum payments that I was slotted for was about 150 US a month, which didn't cover the interest rate. So that's why it stayed almost exactly the same. So I want to prepare for, I just need to make sure it's on emergency. Okay, so I just need to prepare for paying above the interest rate. So I need to go in and do that math and everything.
Yeah. Still. You need to go in and check and see what your minimum payment is, what you can be doing so it's going down versus going at that. The bright side, it is a lower interest rate than, a lot of people I've talked to have 7, 12, 13% interest rates, and you have 4.45. But at the same time, you don't want to sit around and have this student loan debt for the next 10, 20 years if you're just paying the minimum payment. So start figuring out a plan of what the minimum payment is and how can you pay this off in a shorter time period. And with your knowledge and skill set of being a software engineer, I think we got to figure out ways how to get your income up, because then you can be debt free and you go travel the world and see everything you want to see. So
which would be great.
And then other debts. I see some credit cards on here. Let's talk about that.
So the credit cards are the ones I'm overexpanded on that I know I am overexpanded on. And that one is the risk one for me. So the credit cards, I have just booked a lot of tickets for my dad and I are going to Germany, and it might be one of those once in a lifetime trips where he and I get to go to Germany. So I have a lot of stuff on the credit card that I don't want on there.
What's the total balance?
So I have a few credit cards. One of them, the Chase one. So that's the Chase Sapphire one. It's about $6,600.
Okay. And
the Citibank Hong Kong one, which I use to buy my huge gaming laptop, is, give me a second, 25,000 Hong Kong. So about 3,500 Hong Kong, rough estimate.
Okay, so about $10,000 in credit card debt between the two different cards.
Correct.
And 28% interest rate on those, probably about both of them. And booking a trip to Germany. So, hey, let's go on vacation while we got $10,000 worth of credit card debt, making $2,000 a month. This sounds like a great financial idea.
This is for a wedding. So it is a once in a lifetime trip. And it's with my dad, who for me is, who knows, he has diabetes type 1. So he may not be around for much longer. So that's why when I said, I know I'm overexpanding myself, but this is a decision I made to be like, this is going to really hurt. And I'm going to have to work to pay it off, but I'm going to make this decision. And the nice thing is, I have all my notes here. The nice thing is I don't have any big trips coming up. So it's
you can't afford to go on big trips right now.
But I know, right? Can you imagine? Just swiping right.
You shouldn't have any trips coming up if you have $10,000 worth of credit card debt.
The limit, it's disgusting how big the limit is on the credit card. It's absolutely insane. This is the most I've ever have on a credit card ever in my life. And it's quite painful.
And it needs to be the most you ever have. It needs to go down and go to zero.
But so I have a few contracts coming up, contract work that I have. And if I can complete them, that will be 3,000 US. Easily, quickly, 3,000 US that I will immediately. So everything I'm earning right now is immediately going into the credit card.
And what's the timeline of those $3,000 worth of contracts?
Here is the hardest part. Here's where you can yell at me, you can be harsh, everything. What I need to do is to sit down and just work on the contracted work I was given. So it's one of these things that will probably be a week-long programming hackathon binge of about, 10-hour plus days of lots of coffee and just get it done and then ship it out. And it's one of those things I need to sit down and do.
You get paid $3,000. You already have the contract in place, and you just have to sit down and do the work.
That's the part where it's like,
how long you had the contract for?
Oh, maybe 2 months now.
You got it for 2 months and you haven't started on it?
No, I've started on it. Don't get me wrong. I've started on it. Don't worry about that. I just need to finish.
You're just pushing it off, and
yeah.
I mean, between that contract, if you have $4,000 in your investment accounts, and so you're essentially,
I can pay it off.
You should sell your investments. Obviously, you need to account for any capital gains you have there, but having money in crypto when you got a 28% interest rate on your $10,000 worth of credit cards is insanity to have. If you want to invest in crypto and have fun money there, a small portion of your portfolio and allocations or high risk things like crypto or single stocks, whatever, 5-10%, sure. But if you got $4,000 in a brokerage account, but you paid last month to Chase, what is it, an interest, $145 in interest. Yeah. I mean, you're just burning money
for no good reason.
For no reason.
None.
If I was in your shoes, you should sell the crypto and the brokerage stuff tomorrow, and that's $4,500 to go towards. You can pay off the Citibank card. Yeah. And have another $1,000 to go towards this Chase card. That'll get down to $5,500 about. And then get this other contract, pay $3,000 towards that. And then you need to be hustling in the meantime and throwing everything at this Chase card. But I mean, with your skill sets, with that one contract you have right there, you get done in the next week, it sounds like. And then you can get more work, make another $2,000. It's $5,000 in the next 30 days you can make that you can get majority of this credit card debt paid off.
No, so sorry, go ahead. I just have a few questions.
Well, I was saying, like, you have the skill sets to do this, and sounds like you have the contracts, and also sounds like based off your skill set being a software engineer, you're either not charging enough or you're not, I guess, have enough inbound for the client leads right now, because you should be charging at least $60, $70 an hour probably for your skill set. If you're making $110K base, I mean, that's $55 an hour. Right. So if you're at least charging 55, if not 70, if it's contract work, and you're only doing $2,000 a month of work right now, so that's about 40 hours at $50 an hour. So you either not have enough hours of work right now, or you're not charging clients enough.
So I think it's both of those. One of those is getting around by word of mouth, or how I'm trying to figure out how can I advertise my skill sets. That's one of them that I've been trying to work on.
Have you used Upwork before?
I have not. I use something called People Per Hour.
Okay, so Upwork's like a freelancing website. I've used it for the last
Is it
6
good?
years. So I find talent people. I have software developers I work with. I find people in the United States to help with social media work, etc. So I mean, I've used it for a wide range from graphic design to software development to just data entry to all sorts of stuff. And working with a couple of software developers right now on there for some different projects. And frankly, yes, there are contractors on there that I've not been impressed with, but I've worked with some individuals for over 4 years using the platform.
Got it.
So I personally think it's a great platform. I think it's a great platform for you to find work. Yes, you're going to find people that you apply for their contracts that probably aren't great companies to work with, but you can also see it has ratings and reviews for every company that you apply to. You can see, okay, this person has 4.9 stars from freelancers rating it. They've spent this much on the platform. I think it's a great platform for someone with your skill sets to go and find. It is going to be very competitive for you in terms of a lot of US companies, they try to outsource to Eastern Europe or other countries where they can pay software developers $30 or $40 an hour versus US developer 50 to 100. But there's still going to be plenty of opportunities and jobs for you to put your skill set out there and build a resume, whether even it is for $40 an hour. And you do that for, if you can get 100 hours a month on there, 40 hours a month on there, $1,600 extra dollars that you can bring in from additional work. So, or you can start, have your profile rate as $50, $60, $70 an hour and apply to contracts you start and offer bid a little bit lower. But that's definitely, I can see a viable route for you to at least get a couple $1,000s a month of income coming in from there. So,
right. I think my biggest problem right now is the time to money make at the moment. So trying to figure that one out because I'm taking care of family things and along with the money. And so for the last few months, I've put the family time as more important. And now I'm focusing on the money as being more important. So one of the questions I had though was if I do pull out, because I was debating whether or not to pull out my investment in my crypto, is if I make below a certain amount, I don't need to pay federal taxes. And if my accounts show a certain amount coming in, then I have to pay federal taxes, was my understanding. I was doing research on this recently when I was debating whether to pull out these accounts. My goal is to not pay federal taxes because I think that would punish me at a point where I wouldn't be able to pay as easily as before. But I'm not sure. I haven't been in the US for so long. I don't know how it works. Where I'm a bit worried if I do have this sort of inflow of income coming into my accounts that it will be registered and then it will show that I have a certain amount of income that I'll need to be taxed on. And I wasn't sure about the capital gains. I've had these investments for more than a year.
Okay. So if you have them for over a year, that moves it from short-term gains to long-term capital gains. So the max tax on those is 15 or 20%. So the 20%.
So much. It just makes me, I'm so annoyed about it.
Compared to your 14% you're paying previously, it is, but that's only on the gain itself. So if you have $1,500 in crypto right now and say you put $1,000 in it, that means there's a $500 gain. And if you pay, you'll be in the 15% rate because it's under $459,000 of tax or in taxable income. You pay 15%. So you pay 15% on $500, which is what, $75 plus state tax. I guess you're in Florida. If you're in Florida, you don't have state income taxes. So you'll pay $75 on that $1,500. So you still have $1,475 left over. And then on the broker, it's $75. You paid more in interest to the credit card company last month.
Don't worry, I'm going to do it. Like mathematically it makes sense. It frustrates me so much. And this isn't the reason why I haven't done it, but it frustrates me so much that the government taxes me on XYZ, this. And I'm like,
the government wants a piece of every single dollar you make, and they're gonna get it. But it's okay.
At least everywhere I backpack, there was healthcare, almost free healthcare everywhere. And then I come here, I could go on a tirade about.
Welcome to America. We can get as political as we want, and we could say what could change is not going to change for centuries. So the only thing you can do is you can improve your financial situation, and you can complain about taxes and say I'm not going to sell this crypto, but then you're going to be paying $150 a month to the credit card companies,
right?
Or you can pay $75 in taxes and stop paying money to the bank. So either the government's going to get your money or the bank's going to get your money. It's up to you what you want.
Yeah.
Or you can sell the crypto, the government gets some money, the bank gets less money because you're not paying interest, and then you get to retain most of the money.
That's the main goal. So if I do have this income coming into my account. Now, one of the nice things about having a Hong Kong account is I can have this money come into my Hong Kong account and then slowly bring it in. I know that the US does actually monitor Hong Kong accounts and stuff, but it may not register. It may still keep me below a certain threshold.
So income taxes, I mean, in the United States, it's over $11,000 a year you start paying, or I guess, sorry, no, you start paying income taxes at the 10%. You owe 10% of your income to the federal government from $0 to $11,000. So if you're making $0, then you owe zero in taxes. But if you're making 11,000, you owe $1,100 in tax.
I see. So I did my research wrong. I thought I saw that if you make under 11,000 or 12,000 US, that you don't have to even file taxes.
No, so looking at the I mean, like your income is coming in right now for your software development stuff, being if you're registered in the state of Florida, you're gonna owe taxes there. There is for long-term capital gains under 40, if you're making under 40,000 for long-term capital gains, then that won't apply. So if your taxable income for this year is $35,000 and you have $500 in taxable long-term gains, then you pay 0% on those long-term gains.
I see.
But also you're making $40,000, you got to figure out, you shouldn't worry about the taxes if you got $10,000 worth of credit card debt, whether you're going to be paying money to the government or not.
It's just more about making sure that I have the money saved up, because unlike before where when I was younger in university and it was taken out of the paycheck, I don't want to be I want to make sure I start saving now, or when I take out that investment, I'm like, okay, I mentally am prepared to also take out this much.
Yeah. So what you should do is like, okay, sit down and estimate and figure out, there's different online calculators to figure out, okay, what is your taxable income on these gains? And then, okay, if it's $100, if it's $500, whatever it is, open up a separate high yield savings account, put that money in it, don't touch it. Same with the income right now that's coming in. If you're making $2,000 a month, you're self-employed, you can be set aside probably 25% of that income as well for tax as well for the government. So if you bring in $3,000 off this new contract, you can be setting aside probably $700, $800 and put that aside in a high yield savings account for when taxes are due next spring. So.
And you say a high yield savings account, what would be considered? Do you have any recommendations for a high yield savings account?
Sure. I'll send you my referral link to Marcus. It's my affiliate Marcus link, but we both get 1% interest rate or whatever additional on it. So you get like 5.15% interest rate on it. But I'll send you some resources after this. But that's what I use. I use Marcus. It's like 4.15% with use my link. You get additional 1%. So it's 5.15% for the first 3 months. So I use that. There's other ones that are like 4.5%. But frankly, some people are like, oh, you should switch from a 4% to a 5% one. And I don't care. You don't have enough money sitting in a high yield savings account to make, if you make $10 extra in a year, $100 extra in a year, like it's not worth opening and closing other different bank accounts. So pick one, forget about it, and let it sit in there. So
that sounds good. Okay. Just because one other thing that struck me a lot when I came back to the States was inflation. Is insane to me after 6 years away.
It's definitely that's what happens when during COVID, a lot of money was printed, a lot of PPP loans, a lot of just inflation, everything, stimulus checks. It threw a lot of money into the economy, and inflation spiraled kind of out of control, which apparently, frankly, it's under control right now. It's like under 4% month or year over year, but it did shoot up, and we'll see how that kind of progresses in the future. Yeah. The Fed hiked rates again this week a little bit. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what inflation is going to look like for the next 12 months or not. I don't know. I just know that, hey, goal of life is live below your means, and you'll be okay. But inflation definitely has spiraled up the last few years.
Because when you mentioned that I'm not charging enough for my work, so when I first came back and I had some work, and I'm like, yeah, I'll charge this much, because this is how much it used to be worth in my mind back when I was doing work in university. And then I went to Subway and got a Subway sandwich. It was like, oh my God, I need to charge 3 times as much as I was.
At least.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it completely blew my mind. So I did the contract work, I got it done. And then for the next one, I was like a little bit higher. And then I just sent in a proposal for another project, and I did even higher this time. So I'm like, it's not a livable wage what I've been charging people.
What's your hourly rate you typically charge?
So I've been doing it by project instead of hourly rate so much. But the most recent, I am currently doing some work that is hourly rate, though. It's a bit different. So about $40 an hour was the most recent one.
That's about an $80K salary. So it's essentially if you had 40 hours a week to work, but obviously being self-employed, you also have different taxes you have to pay being self-employed, you don't have health insurance, you don't have X, Y, and Z,
Right.
you have additional business costs for your own equipment. So I think you should be trying to charge at least 110 on an annual basis, which would be about 55.
Okay.
But obviously, as you kind of get starting off at $40 an hour to start getting some clients in, get some people on your portfolio website, proof of work is not a bad idea as well.
Right.
But as you continue to grow, okay, maybe next contract's about $50 an hour, maybe the following one's 55. And people too might push back and say, hey, we'll do this on an hourly rate, but at 45 versus 50. And you can say, okay, great. Well, I'll take that, whatever that is worth for you at the time. But I mean, an hourly or a salaried role in the United States as a software engineer, I mean, you're probably, according to Glassdoor first glance, it's between 95 and 150,000 a year, which is about $45 to $75 an hour. So I would just, as you continue to increase your portfolio in the United States, get more clients under your belt, let's figure out what that sweet spot of the rate is. But I think you can definitely increase it beyond $40 an hour or so. But also at the same time, if you go on Upwork and you start a portfolio or an account on Upwork to find clients, maybe it is starting at $40 an hour and someone will hire you maybe immediately in the United States for $40 an hour because that's not typical, the rate of software engineers in America. But that can help you get a portfolio going on Upwork, get a couple 5-star reviews, and then, okay, the next contract's going to be $50, the next contract's going to be $55, and as you kind of build that up. So
Right.
It's not a bad start there because that's still $80,000 a year if you have 40 hours a week to work. But at the same time, you have to account for additional costs of running a business. If you have to have a certain softwares or equipment you have to buy, if you bought a new computer, whatever, health insurance, and different taxes there. So because you're paying essentially double paying Social Security tax as well when you're self-employed, if you have an LLC set up. So just different things to think about, but I definitely continue to kind of play with that rate, figure out what's comfortable that most people are willing to pay. But I can promise you most people are definitely willing to pay $40 an hour for a US software engineer. They're willing to pay a lot more than that as well. So especially someone that's not, if you're fresh out of college, okay, great, you might be paying $40 an hour, but you're 29, you've been doing this for years, you have a resume, you can definitely charge more than $40 an hour. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think once I have a portfolio website as well, it'll make me more comfortable to be like, here is the actual proof. Because one of the issues I also have sometimes is they see me. The amount of times I've had someone say, you don't look like a software engineer. Like, what do you think they're supposed to look like? I don't know. I've had that quite a bit. So sometimes I think I let that get into my mind a little bit, where if I had something actual physical, not physical, but, website wise, to be like, here's proof.
Yeah. No, I mean, as you build that portfolio up, it will definitely help your credibility, definitely help your proof of concept to potential clients. But definitely would look at what other routes can you do of finding contract roles that are on different websites. I don't know if Indeed probably has one, some other ones. It's going to take a lot to apply to those, but finding how can you increase your income, Upwork, Indeed, other platforms you can find contract work as well. If this is a lifelong goal that you can have, I mean, you have the skill sets to do it. And right now you have the ability, you're living at home, so you have a lot lower monthly expenses. So you don't have to worry necessarily about that as much, and you have some time to build it up. Granted, you do have $9,000 worth of credit card debt, so you need to figure out how you increase your income quickly, which selling that brokerage account, selling that crypto account, and paying off a majority of that right then and there, getting this $3,000 contract finished that you've had for 2 months, and then getting some additional work, you should be out of credit card debt in the next 60 days.
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, it makes me deeply, deeply uncomfortable. I hate credit card debt. Just like the same way you just heard me bitching about having to pay $75 to the U.S. government for doing nothing on my own capital gains. I also hate every time I see that credit card surcharge.
And I would hate the credit card debt a lot more than the taxes, because you're paying a lot more money. If you're paying $140 a month to the bank versus $75 to the government for those taxes, I would take the one-time capital gains taxes over the credit card debt. How long have you had this for? How many months?
Not many at all. I'm just thinking
2, 3, 4.
Let's say 3.
Okay, so if you've paid $150 a month, and that's just on one account, you got the other account too. So we'll call it $200 a month. The last 3 months at $600 in interest fees that you've been paying.
Right, and there's no way my interactive brokers account has gained me $600 to offset that. There's no. Yeah, I'm in the negative when it comes to, like, let's say if my investments were returning that much and more, I'd be okay with it, but they're not.
But your investments aren't going to return 28% year over year risk free. I mean, right now the stock market's up 20% year to date, which is great. But guess what? It's not going to return 20% every single year for the next 20 years and outpace your credit cards. So take it while it's up this year, pay off your credit card debts, and then you can start figuring out how to start investing for the long term once you get this debt paid off.
Yeah. I feel like there's another question I had. I'm trying to think. So you said that the Social Security, so with the LLC that's been open, so I'll have to pay Social Security not only on myself, but also as a company, right?
Yeah. So essentially, how it works is like the 6.5 or 6.25% for like Social Security, Medicare.
Okay.
When you're employed, your employer pays that 6.25%, but then it also gets taken out of your paycheck. When you're self-employed as an LLC, you essentially have to pay both sides because you're the employer and the employee in
Got
that
it.
situation. So it's technically double tax, like additional 6% being an LLC, since you have both sides of that.
Got it. Just want to make sure I write that down because I want to make sure I do everything by the books.
And it's just bookkeeping purposes too. So you make sure you set setting enough aside for tax season next year as
Right.
well. Just make sure you're accounting for everything. So.
And this is such a silly question, but in Hong Kong, the tax season is March, April. Here it's January, right?
So the tax calendar year is January 1st to December 31st. And then tax days typically like April 15th. I think this year is like April 18th because of the weekend. But typically it's April 15th.
Got it. Just because that's important information based on how long I've been. So in the US, if I'm in the US for more than 35 days, I have to pay US taxes. But if I'm in the US for less than 35 days in the entire tax year, I don't have to pay. Okay. And then April is the tax. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Let's dive into some of these monthly expenses to see what you've been spending your money on for this credit card debt.
I totally forgot what I even said you. Let me pull it up too.
We'll start with the Chase card. I don't have the Citi card in front of me, so I don't know what you spent on there.
There's nothing on there. In fact, because I hate credit cards in general so much, I usually order the credit card, have it for emergencies, or if I need medical treatment. Because in Hong Kong, you then expense it after you pay for it yourself, but it's not very expensive. So I'd use the credit card, and I would have it available, but I usually don't even I lose them on purpose somewhere in my wardrobe or something. So I don't even know where.
I think you should lose them and cancel them on purpose, because when you're $10,000 in credit card debt, it means you don't know how to use a credit card properly, which then you pay a lot of interest.
So I have a question on building up credit in the U.S. So someone was telling me that to have a good credit score in the U.S., you should have a student loan that you're paying consistent. So I have automatic payments for all my things. So you have automatic payments for stuff to prove. And that if you don't have student loans and you don't have a credit card and you don't have car payment, because my car's bought outright. It's like this old stick shift that we found and then restored it kind of thing. Is it bad to not have anything that you're paying any interest on for credit scores?
Whoever told you that I wouldn't listen to them. I mean, I'm 26. I've never had a car payment. I've paid, my parents helped me pay for my first car, and then I bought, my wife and I bought our second car. I've never paid interest on a credit card. I've paid mine off in full every single month. And I was fortunate I didn't have any student loans, and I have like 800 credit score. So, and I frankly don't care about my credit score. My credit score only helps me when I was buying a house and helped me get a little bit lower on the interest rate there. But credit score only matters. I used it once when I was renting. My landlord asked to see my credit score. And then besides that, car loans, the best car is a car paid for in cash. If you can't afford a $30,000 car without financing it, you can't afford that car.
Right.
And student loans, I'd rather be out of debt than have my credit score be 50 points lower, whatever it is. And if people are telling you keep debt so you can improve your credit score, I 100% disagree with that. The only way that you should have a high credit score, the only credit you should have open is a credit card that you pay in full every single month. And if you can't pay a credit card in full every single month, you shouldn't have a credit card.
Right.
Because you're just paying interest for fun, and it's not worth it. So people, in my opinion, overpraise or overthink the credit score thing and say, oh, I need to have a car loan so I have good credit history so I can get a loan for X, Y, and Z. But it's like credit scores only matter when you go into debt, and you shouldn't be going into debt to buy a car you can't afford or buy things you can't afford or have credit cards. So, and if you ever find yourself carrying a balance on a credit card, you shouldn't have a credit card, because that's how credit card companies make all their money. That's how people travel the world on their credit card rewards, because they spend money on their credit cards, but credit card companies make most of their money off of 28% interest rates. And then in turn, they can then give rewards to people who pay their balances on time, because they're making 28% off of you. So you can't pay a credit card in full. Shouldn't have one. Use a debit card. You'll spend a lot less money, and you won't go, frankly, if you use a debit card only, you won't go buy a $3,000 flight to Germany because you don't have the cash for your money in there. Versus right now, put $3,000 on it, you're paying $100 extra month for that trip right now because put it on a credit card. So the whole thing about not have debt so you have a good credit score, you're going to pay a lot more in interest to the banks and the loans on that than it's worth having. So I think it's a load of BS.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Just wanted to make sure that when I wiped everything out, it wasn't,
Your credit score will improve when you don't have a $9,000 credit card balance that you're missing payments and over on. I can promise you that your utilization will be down a lot. So that means that's not going to be bad. Is you're not going to have late payments, which that destroys your credit. When you carry balance, that destroys credit.
When you carry balance, it destroys credit.
Yeah, when you're missing late, when you're late on your credit card.
No, I've never been late on credit card payments.
You are right now.
No,
because you're carrying a balance.
Late as in like late for the minimum payment.
Oh, I meant late as in late
for the balance.
Yes, carrying the balance month over month, which you are right now. So when you're carrying a balance right now, that hurts your credit.
I see. I didn't realize that. Okay, that is good.
So when you have $9,000 left of on your balance right now, that hurts utilization, and it doesn't look good when you don't make your payments because you're carrying balance. So you'll be a lot better off not having credit card balance.
The U.S. Just looking at this. So the U.S. one, the Chase credit card I could actually pay off, I think, really quick. 3,000, 4,000. Yeah. So with that one, honestly, with my next paycheck, from the code mentoring I'm doing, I can pay off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay off the entire U.S. credit card, leave the Hong Kong credit card for a little bit because that one, the interest rate on that one's a lot lower.
You know what it is?
I don't know what it is, but I do know it's a lot. The interest payments are a lot less on that one. I can't get into it right now to check. Hold on.
The interest payments are less because it's a lower balance.
That too. Also, the interest rate is less, so the APR is less on that one. I got that one ages ago, but it's the American credit card that makes me the most uncomfortable.
I would say both of them make me uncomfortable for you, but. If you sell the crypto, sell the stuff in the brokerage account, and this contract, I mean that's about $7,000 of the $9,000 or $10,000 of credit card debt. Right. So you should be able to pay all of it off in the next 60 days, getting new contracts, new gigs, and not spending money on ridiculous things. So
what else? Oh yeah, what else is on my statement? Is there anything on my statement that is quite silly?
Let's see what we can cut out on here.
All right.
Cont care. It's $269. Healthcare. Okay. Yeah. So can't get rid of that.
No, sadly.
The $143 of interest charge we can once we get rid of this credit card.
Yes. Oh, quick question about the healthcare stuff. So someone was telling me, and I haven't done any research on it, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt, that if I apply for something in October, I can get like healthcare subsidies. Is that
I'm not the best when it comes to healthcare.
Okay.
When it comes to health insurance and coverages, I'll look and I'll try to find some resources on that. But
I can look. I just haven't looked yet.
Yeah, off the back of the head, I'm not too familiar with that. But something I need to look at and learn. So that's what part of this show too is I want to learn too different things so I can help other people. When the next person has questions on this, then I'll be able to give them an answer. But one thing I do want to point out, did you see some different transactions like Wix? I'm assuming that's for your website, for your portfolio.
Yeah.
You need to be making sure that you are tracking all these expenses in a separate spreadsheet as well for all your business stuff. So you can make sure that you have that in the year for business transactions.
And I keep all the receipts and everything, and so I can offset any payments I need to.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We got Peloton for $14, which I would cancel my Peloton subscription for $14. Okay, good.
Canceled because YouTube has so many resources anyways for free.
I've worked out for 3 years every single day in a row, and I use YouTube for all my free stuff.
Right. And I have YouTube Premium that my brother put me on, so I even have access to that. So the Peloton I canceled.
Good. And there's a few other transactions. I'm not sure. ChatGPT you use for work, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that one's actually valuable.
And what is Visa Colombia?
Oh, in order to get into Colombia, I had to pay for a visa. But I spent only $100 in 5 days in Colombia, so it wasn't too bad.
What about your flight to Colombia?
$150 or $200? No, I think I paid that one with I had gotten a contract back in May, and I think I used that money to pay it off.
So you took a trip to Colombia. It was cheap. It sounds like $400, but you decided to go to Colombia instead of paying the credit card debt off.
I was able to get rewards from this survey that I did, so the flight was almost free, and it was to see friends I hadn't seen in 15 years. So that was a decision I made. Now, I also worked in Colombia, so I was doing work in Colombia as well. And I was staying at a friend's place, and I didn't spend any money. Other than the $100, but
sounds like there were some costs I could have gone, but
not much. If I had to decide, and I was late to the trip because I was doing another job for $500 that I earned. So I wasn't there. Like everyone else was there for 2 weeks, and I was only there for a week.
Okay.
So that one was a difficult decision, but I did go in the end because
You chose the trip over the credit card debt still.
wasn't much.
Not much adds up, but let's look at the monthly statement for the debit card. It looks like we have Rebel. Is that a coffee place? $18.40 on June 26th.
I'm just thinking June 26th. I would have been in Colombia. That doesn't make sense. I'm pulling it up now.
Is it your oil change that popped up for mobile gas station?
That was just gas.
Okay, it was just gas. Okay. You have an Apple bill for $16 on June 27th. Is that another subscription?
That is Audible, which I'm doing for 2 particular books, and then I'm canceling it because I'm doing the Stormlight series archive.
I would definitely cancel that once.
I tried pirating it and it didn't work. Or the amount of effort. Let me rephrase that. The amount of time I have versus the effort versus the money spent. I was like, my time is better.
Buy a used book off Amazon for $5.
Because I want to listen to it when I do my flights. Yeah. So that one I didn't have to think about because I don't enjoy spending that kind of money because I used to pirate things all the time, but they've really cracked down on Pirate Bay.
Yeah, I would cancel it still just as you get out of this. We have Black Tulip Coffee on July 2nd, $40 for coffee.
Yeah, that one was a girls get together. I know what you're gonna say. I already know it.
I don't care what it is. I'm just pointing out transactions that $40 that could be going towards credit card debt right now, and I'm not saying you can never go to a credit card or go to a coffee shop for the rest of your life, but during the season of life, if you want to get out of credit card debt, shouldn't be spending $40 at a coffee shop. Steam
purchase, that was a video game. I know you're going to be upset with that one too.
Definitely don't need that. Don't need video games right now. You need to be working. You say you don't have much time to work, but you're buying video games.
Yeah, that's my unwind after a long day.
Go for a walk outside. You're in Florida. Florida's a beautiful place.
It's 110. It feels like 110 degrees. It is literally.
You got to go outside at night at like 8 o'clock when it's going
hot.
down.
It's hot. It's like our winter. It's like the equivalent. In our winter, it's perfect. In the summer, it's deadly.
Is the Apple on July 5th? Is that another Audible transaction?
It must be.
Okay, that's another $16. We got groceries. We've got shopping at Goodwill. We've got more Apple on the 12th. We have an Uber for $13.
Oh yeah, I was sick and ordered food in when I was taking care of my niece.
You need to have groceries in the pantry that you can eat when you're not feeling good. Pop in the microwave or oven, not Uber Eats and stuff. Venmo, what is this $212 Venmo?
I'm trying to remember.
$212 on July 12th.
That might have been the Columbia payment. Ages ago. I mean, as in, so there was I'm thinking because the only person I Venmo'd recently was my friend Charlotte, and that would have been in Colombia. So I got an eye exam done in Colombia because it was much cheaper there than it would be here. So I did research to find out because my eyes are going bad. And so when I tried finding a place in Naples, Florida, my insurance wouldn't cover it, and then on top of that, it was like $250 here, and it was $50 or so for glasses and everything down there.
That might have been that.
Yeah.
We got some Home Depot transactions on the 13th, helping around the house.
Yeah. Painting, redoing the deck, stripping.
Wawa, $38 on the 14th. Is that gas? Please tell me it's not food at Wawa.
Gas? Are you kidding me? I can't eat anything at Wawa. I'm allergic to wheat. And
I've had their breakfast sandwiches, and their breakfast sandwiches are pretty good. But
yeah,
we got the Chase credit card payment, Warhammer, July 17th for $192. What is that?
That was my one treat a month.
One treat a month? You're $10,000 in credit card debt. You don't get one treat a month for $192?
It's painting, miniature painting.
So you bought a painting for $192.
Not painting, paint material.
Paint materials, $192.
Now,
you can't do that.
One thing is that apparently people pay you to paint miniatures. So that would be interesting. That is something I would do.
If someone's willing you to pay it and they cover the cost, then that way you get your self-care fun stuff with painting.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be spending $192 on these paint materials when you got $10,000 worth of credit cards.
I hear you.
We got more Wawa, another credit card payment, deposit some money. Target, $213.
Target and Michaels. I know you're going to freak out about this. I actually returned most of the stuff. So I
I
returned.
don't see the returns on here.
Yeah, but I returned most of it. So thankfully, what happened was is I was really stressed, and I came back from Hong Kong and didn't really have any clothes because one of my sisters took all my clothes. So I didn't really have much. So I did buy some clothes at Target, and then freaked out when I saw how much it cost. I was in such a rush, and then I went home and just returned almost all of it except for a few things. The Michaels one, that one is a bit silly as well.
More painting materials?
A bit, yeah.
Okay, so we got $300 worth of painting materials right there. That's a tenth of the Hong Kong credit card right there that's gone with those materials. And you just got to wait a little bit longer, and then you can enjoy life and set up a budget and enjoy that. But between the painting materials, the Target, Michaels, we got Dylan's Draft House for $24. We've got McDonald's, we got more Uber, the previous Uber, the coffee shop. I mean, that's $630 right there.
Easily.
$638 at least. And this is 1 month. If we looked for the rest of June, if we looked in May, I'm sure we could find another $500 those months as well.
I would argue, I would put money on it. Yeah, I would. I would say these are the silliest expenses I've done in a very long time.
That's probably the conversation I've done 15 or 20 of these interviews so far, and every single time people are like, oh, this is the most amount of money I've spent in a month ever, or whatever it is, or this is unusual. And it's like, I've talked to 15 people, 20 people about it, and everyone can't have the same answer. It can't be the highest spending month for everyone.
That is
she's pulling up the receipts to prove me wrong right now.
What if you're right? I mean, I would eat my own words 100%.
But we had $1,100 come into the account this month, and we had $1,265 going out. So your balance went from $500 to $380, which is not a good direction we want to go in. We want to go in the other direction unless we're paying off debt, which most of this was not going to debt. $600 could have been going towards paying these credit cards off.
No,
and then your interest rate, then you're not paying $140 in interest anymore, which is going to be more money that you can retain and keep for yourself. That, hey, that $140 when the credit card debt's gone, that's going to pay for your paintings.
Yeah.
Which that'd be a great place to be in.
Which would be it'd feel much more comfortable. Okay. I'm just looking at July spending $1,300, June $900, May.
Uh-oh.
All right.
She's eating her own words.
That's what it was.
How much was May?
$1,900.
Okay, so I was right.
April, that was me. That was when I got contract work coming in, and I was paying off a lot of stuff too. Yep, travel. It's buying those tickets from paying off the tickets from years ago. All right, so I do eat my own words. 100% correct.
Life catches up to you, and like, do you budget your money? Do you sit down and like make a budget every single month?
I do not, partly because it's been inconsistent, and the other part is because I'm still transitioning from backpacking and just spending my money to trying to be more in control, which is part of the reason why I signed up for this.
Well, I'm glad you signed up. I mean, what you got to do is like, I mean, the same way you got to $60,000 in savings before we started backpacking was that money didn't just magically appear in your bank account. You were deliberate. You knew that you were spending less money than you were making, which allowed you to save up and make that goal of, hey, I want to go travel now. But the same way to get out of this debt is you can't just put it off until your income's stable or until you find the right dream job or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You got to start tracking your money now, because right now going through these transactions at $600 that we found right then and there that could be going towards debt. So whether you have no job, whether you have a high paying job, whatever it is, every single person should budget their money. Otherwise, you don't know where it's going. And I can guarantee you, if you use a budgeting platform, I use one called mint.com. I'll send it to you.
Oh, I used to use Mint back in university.
Yeah. It's a free platform. I've been using it for like 6 years or something. And every single dollar that comes out of my bank account, it tracks me. It categorizes it into shopping or auto or food or whatever. And I understand where my money's going. And I can look back on my month. I look every single week. Me and my wife look down and sit down at our finances. And I can see, okay, we spent too much money on this. Or, hey, we have $100 left in our food budget this month, and there's 6 days left. Maybe we shouldn't go out to eat today. Or, hey, we got $300 left in our food budget. Let's go enjoy a nice dinner on Friday night. Whatever it might be. But unless you're tracking your money, you never know where it's going to go. And if you start using it on a weekly basis, you're going to find things. You're going to find subscriptions that you didn't know you're still paying for. You wouldn't know how much you're spending on paint materials. Like, if I'd asked you at the beginning of the call how much you spent on paint stuff last month, you probably would have said, oh, $100 or $150 when we just uncovered $300.
Right.
You'll find things that you didn't realize you're spending that money on, or eating out. Oh, I didn't spend that much money on eating out because there's only a few $10 transactions or $15 transactions here and there. But if you do that 10, 20, 30 times a month, it adds up to hundreds of dollars every single month. Unless you're tracking your money, unless you're being very like diligent with making sure that, and you don't have to sit here and spend 100 hours a month looking at expenses and transactions, but at least having the idea of where your money's going, what it's being spent on, and tracking every single thing. It can take you 30 minutes a week, 20 minutes a week just to run through your Mint transactions, categorize stuff if it's incorrect, and just review your budget. It doesn't have to take much time. My wife and I, it takes us 5-10 minutes on a Sunday night to do. And then maybe once a month, I'll sit down and run through everything and double check. It would be a little bit longer, but it doesn't have to be a time intensive thing. So you need to start doing that, especially as you're trying to build up your income and your base contracting, which I'm all for going that route. I mean, you can go the route of going to get a new full-time job and make a lot more money, but I'm for the route of, hey, let's hustle. You're living at home, so you don't have much expenses. You should be cutting the bare bones of everything, pay off this debt, and then start building up this foundation. If you had a $2,000 or $3,000 a month apartment lease right now, I'd say, hey, you need to go apply to jobs tomorrow if you can't afford this. But if you're living at home and you cut the travel out, you cut the eating out, you cut the paint materials out, and you live bare bones for a few months, you can afford to pay for your health insurance. You can afford to pay for your groceries or contribute to the household for utilities or Home Depot, whatever it might be. But you can't sit here and afford a $2,000 or $3,000 a month apartment lease or $1,500. I know Naples isn't cheap if you wanted to get an apartment there. Let's put a timeline on it. Let's put a timeline on it for the next 3 months. You're going to find 3 more platforms or 4 more platforms to go apply to jobs every single day to. Let's set a budget of, hey, let's hit $5,000 a month in income in the next 90 days doing software engineering jobs. And I guarantee you can hit that. If you set a quantifiable goal, you're much more likely to hit a goal. Have you set goals before in terms of hitting your income levels? Okay. As long as you're doing that and you're tracking that every single week, I guarantee you 3 months from now, you're going to be a lot closer to that goal than you started. If you set a goal for $20,000 a month in the next 3 months, that's going to be very difficult to hit. But if you set ones that are tangible, that are realistic, hey, let's figure out ways to do that. And the actions are, hey, you need to apply to 10 jobs a day on Upwork, 10 jobs a day on this, different contracting gigs. You can get there. And you need to figure out how to save as much money as possible, cut everything unnecessary, pay off this credit card debt with the investment accounts. Then, or before that too, is budget your money as well. It's like set up a monthly budget. You have $2,000 coming in. Let's put $500 aside for savings for taxes. So that leaves you with $1,500. Let's put $500 in spending money. Maybe that's gas, that's food, that's subscriptions if you need to pay for ChatGPT or other things like that for website stuff. And the other $1,000 should be going towards paying this credit card debt off as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And that income also needs to increase. And with that income, keep the expenses as low as possible until you get all the debt paid off. Then you're not going to have $200, $300 a month going away towards credit card debt and these payments. And the goal should be is get out of this credit card debt in the next 60 days. Then you got your student loans coming up that are going to be due in October, which is probably going to be a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
And the goal from there should be is, okay, do you want to be debt free or do you want to depend on the government for wiping this away one day? Some people sit here and say, hey, you should invest the difference and try to invest the difference and not pay off the student loans as quickly as possible. Frankly, from my perspective, is I'd want you to be debt free, considering you found yourself in a pile of debt right now with credit cards. That if you have that money in your bank account or in an investment account, you might save or you might spend that, or you might throw out another trip instead of paying your student loans off. I would be a proponent of, hey, let's pay the student loans off as quickly as possible, open up more cash flow. And then, okay, that $200 that was going towards student loans, let's put that towards travel budget, or let's put that towards eating out and the things you enjoy in life. But that way you're not tied down or have anyone owning you essentially for these debt payments. And people are like, oh, you can put this in a high yield savings account of 5%. Well, if you put in a high yield savings account, you're paying taxes on the interest that you gain in those. So you're not really earning 5%. After taxes, you're earning 4%. So really you can't outperform a 4.45% unless you put in the stock market and invest. But I'm a proponent of, hey, let's get out of debt, stay out of debt fully, and then you have a lot more income to invest in the stock market, invest in index funds, and start building wealth. So that's what I do if I was in your shoes is, hey, let's hustle, keep expenses as low as possible, sell all the crypto and the stuff in the brokerage account to go towards this credit card debt. Next 60 days, hustle and get out of this credit card debt by keeping expenses below $500 a month, budgeting that money. And then once you're done with that, okay, maybe your expenses can increase a little bit and continue to attack the student loans, get rid of that in the next year, and you'll be in good shape if you can get your income up as well. So.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, especially if I don't want to touch. I think one of the issues I've had mentally was thinking that, oh, I'll wait until I earn a certain amount before I worry about the debt. Another issue I've had in my mind is that I can take out my Hong Kong retirement money at any time and pay off my debt right away. And so these two things have been blocking this sense of urgency of budgeting. And I think it's been good coming on this call to have a bit of a wake-up call that I should start budgeting now, and that waiting for this ideal amount of money per month coming in is not something I should be waiting for. Like when people say, I'll be happy when I'm skinny. No, be happy now.
Same thing with the money. It's like, I'll make that change when I'm making $100,000 a year. I'll make that change when I'm making $150,000 a year, or when I have $20,000 in my account. Well, guess what? Life happens.
Yeah.
Stuff's going to happen. Life doesn't go according to plan, or you might have an emergency come up, or you got to do X, Y, and Z, and your car breaks down, or whatever it might be. And if you just wait for that perfect moment to start budgeting, to start paying off debt, that perfect moment may never come. It might come quicker. It might come never. But like, if you just wait and prolong it, it's going to prolong the inevitable that you need to get your finances in order. You need to track your spending, track your income, increase your income, and pay off debt. And when you don't have any debt payments, that gives you a lot more opportunity in life to enjoy life, to travel, to make decisions yourself. I wouldn't sell the retirement accounts. I wouldn't touch those. I'll leave those, even if you can take them out penalty free. I'll leave those, because once you kind of start that slippery slope of, I can pull from my retirement accounts, 5 years from now, I'll be like, I pulled from my retirement account once, it's fine. You're going to pull from it again for a down payment on a car or whatever. And it just brings a really slippery slope out. So I wouldn't even touch those. The brokerage account, that's different, especially when you have high interest debt with credit cards. But I wouldn't touch retirement accounts at all. So
no, it makes sense.
But yeah, you got to take action, got to start budgeting your money. Because if you wait for the right moment when your income's high or whatever, that doesn't stop you from spending. Having a lower income doesn't stop you from spending money, spending $600 on painting materials or going out to eat, obviously. So if you wait till you're making $5,000 a month, that expenses are just going to rise with it, because like, I have more money than the month, I'm going to spend this instead. Then you're going to be making $5,000 and be like, well, where'd all my money go? I think the statistics is, but I think it's like majority of people making over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck.
It's because they spend so much.
Yeah, because lifestyle creep. And 49%, this is according to Market Watch, 49% of America is earning over $100,000 living paycheck to paycheck. So if you're waiting for that perfect moment or for that income to take action and start budgeting your money, guess what? As your income increases, your lifestyle is going to increase. You're going to get a nicer apartment, you get a nicer car, you might get a car payment, which is stupid. And that's just going to cause you to sit there and be like, I still have these loans, still have this debt. What happened? I'm making twice as much money, 3 times as much money, but it's because you weren't prioritizing or looking at your money and understanding where it's all going when you had no money or weren't making as much money. So
makes sense.
But no, you can do this. You have one of the best career fields ever to go and scale your income. You go make a lot of money in this job or in this career field. So you need to be hustling to find contract work, and you need to set parameters on yourself too. And if you're not hitting these different goals by 90 days from now, maybe we'll call it, is okay, maybe I need to start applying to other full-time jobs. Maybe that will kick your butt in gear too at that point to hustle while you're interviewing to get more work in the door. So you need to set hard goals for yourself and set those. I want to get out of credit card debt in the next 60 days, and I want to get my income increased to $5,000 a month by the next 90 days. And that means I don't have to go and apply and get a new job, because I can self-sustain at that point. I'm debt-free or almost debt-free with student loans, still working on those, but I at least can sustain myself making $5,000 a month. It's $4,000 a month after taxes. You're still living at home. You're still traveling to Hong Kong, whatever, but you have money to do that. But I would set hard and fast goals for yourself for that, for the income, for paying off debt. And then if you're not hitting those, okay, great. As those get close, you're going to be kicking your butt in the gear, and you're going to go finish that $3,000 contract, or you're going to go hustle and find other work too. That's what I would do if I was in shoes. You have a great career field to do this, and you have the ability to be living at home. So your living expenses are a lot cheaper. You have a paid for car, which is great. But really just need to get that spending under control, get out of this credit card debt, and vow to never go into credit card debt again after that. I'd cut up the credit cards. If you've once gone into credit card debt for $10,000 and you leave those credit cards open, you're going to find yourself in the same spot 3 years from now. Cause you're like, I want to go on this trip. I don't have the cash in my account. I'm going to do this. I'll swipe it. I'll pay it later. Right. Emergency will come in life. Your money in your bank account will be gone, etc. So you go into credit card debt once, shouldn't use credit cards again. But you're smart, obviously. You're a software engineer. That's not an easy career field at all to make a living in or do. And just have to sit down, budget your money. You can do it. So,
and a good high yield savings account is 4.5%.
Yeah, 4 to 5%. I think most of them are around 4.5%. The one I use is 4.15, but with my referral link, you can get an extra 1%. So that's up to you if you want to use it or not, but I'll send it to you anyway.
All right. I've been taking notes this entire time. I just want to.
Yeah. And I'll send you some different resources and stuff to check out as well when we get off here. But really do just appreciate you coming on and having this open conversation. And hopefully it was beneficial for you.
Absolutely.
In some capacity. And anyone that's watching this, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you've taken on a lot of credit card debt or find yourself in a hole, then reach out. I'd love to have you on the show. Hopefully Kerrie can say this has been a good experience for her.
Definitely.
And I really appreciate it. So I know that's about all the time we have for today. And I really appreciate your time, Kerrie. I'll send you some resources and wish you all the best of luck. So,
and thank you for your time.
Awesome. And if you're watching this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. It's the best way to help the world learn about money is following me on YouTube. So thanks for watching.
Thanks.